This is the Nations Conspire channel. Welcome to today's show. I apologize for my voice. I actually lost my voice. Now I am under the weather, but I am moving forward with trying to get content out because this is a crucial opportunity to wake people up. And we have fire tornadoes. I kid you not. Fire tornadoes, as you just saw, over in Los Angeles, in the Palisades. And you might say to yourself, well, that's normal, a fire tornado. Well, if you are someone who thinks it's normal, it's because you've been programmed to think that it's normal. But if you're someone who's awake and aware this is not normal, they've actually programmed you, though, into accepting this as normal with horrible films like Fire Twister or Firenado, or movies like Into the Storm. Most recently, Twisters, where a fire tornado chases down the main characters in the movie. I mean, what's next, really? I mean, I've joked about it before. Are they going to have a Sharknado? Would it surprise anyone out there if they do? I mean, these people are so dead asleep that these people could show up at their front doors with a gun to their head and they would still think that this entire thing was a joke and that we're conspiracy theorists. And that's reminds me of the line that I keep using from The Matrix. You have to understand that most of these people are not ready to be unplugged. And many of them are so inured, so hopelessly dependent on the system that they will fight to protect it. We've seen tons of predictive programming, which I'll spare you, from these movies that have featured tornadoes turning into fire tornadoes. And now I'll play for you a news clip where they want to explain to you, while people's homes are engulfed in flames from a man-made fire, no, it wasn't arson from a homeless man. It was your own government committing sabotage like they told you they were going to do from the get-go. Republicans and Democrats working together, pretending to be bumbling fools the Democrats have been in these states so that they could commit sabotage, and you would believe that it was an act of stupidity. Because there's a difference. If you believe that these things are happening because these people are idiots, then you just shrug it off and you say, oh, we just got to get Trump in there. We got to just replace these people. If you knew they were working against you, conspiring, sabotaging your day-to-day lives, causing inflation, burning people's homes to the ground, guess what? Suddenly nobody would see skin color. Nobody would see gender. And the people would break free from the left-right paradigm and rise up against this small group of psychopaths. But unfortunately, that doesn't seem to be happening. And we actually see now conservatives applauding what's happening in Los Angeles, which makes me absolutely sick to my stomach. And I want to make it clear that my prayers and condolences are for anybody out there who lost family members, pets, or their homes or anything out in California. Doesn't matter what your politics are. This is the government going after civilians. It's happening in every country right now. So let me play this clip for you. Because now what the news media has to do is explain to you the science about these fire tornadoes. In case you're somebody out there who's like, wait a minute, fire tornado? I just saw that in the Twisters movie that just came out. I just saw a movie called Firenado or Fire Twister. Into the Storm, doesn't that have a similar plot? Well, they want to tell you now how science can actually do this because they don't want you to realize that HAARP and NORAD are the ones responsible for it, and NOAA and your government agencies with all these satellite towers that they tell you are Doppler radars, or these HAARP antennas, or these 5G towers that have the ability to create hurricane-like winds whenever they please. Listen to the news anchors try to explain the science behind this.
We call these fire tornadoes or firenadoes. As we talk about a fire creates its own weather pattern, and what you're looking at right there is the swirling winds. Adam Kruger, I don't know if you're mic'd up.
Yeah.
Can you talk about what we're looking at here?
Sure. And I figured this would happen at some point during our coverage, so I thought about this a little bit. But if you imagine, you guys have probably seen dust devils, right? And a lot of times that's common on baseball fields. And there's a reason why, and I'm going to tie this into why we see a firenado here. But the reason why you see dust devils in areas that are kind of like dirt fields surrounded by grass is because the air is rising quicker over dirt than it would over grass. A baseball field is a great example of this. So when you have air rising, quicker in a certain spot and not so much surrounding it, you get this updraft, and then if all it takes is a little breeze coming from any direction, meets up with that updraft, and naturally will just kind of spin like a vortex, or like when you, drain your sink, it doesn't just go straight down, it spins a little bit, and part of that is kind of the natural rotation of the earth will create that spin. Anyways, what we see happening there is you've got obviously where there's hot fire, the wind is going up vertically pretty quick and not so much in areas surrounding it. So you have that happening, just a slight little gust of wind gets kind of curled into that. You have this little vortex that takes shape, and the atmosphere behaves like a fluid. You see this in rivers sometimes. You just kind of swipe your oar through a river if you're canoeing or something like that. A little vortex forms. Well, the atmosphere or air is very much like a fluid, and so this is just a little vortex.
Oh, that's very interesting. So now all of a sudden, in the human history, no one's ever seen a fire tornado. Now all of a sudden, not only are we seeing rampant amounts of hurricanes, rampant amount of tornadoes and earthquakes, etc. I mean, we've seen days where places like Oklahoma are getting 60 tornadoes at once, but they've conditioned you, of course, to believe that it's climate change. But people should pay attention to what they're saying at the World Economic Forum when they're talking about Agenda 2030 and they're talking about AI governance. To bring these things in, they don't expect you to comply. So in order to bring it in, they expect to sabotage the system. That's the game plan. And for you to be thrilled when Donald Trump brings in AI governance in America because of these actors who have been playing buffoons just like the character from Naked Gun over the years. The president of the United States and Naked Gun have shown the comparisons between the character in Naked Gun and Joe Biden. He's playing the same exact character. They literally even show him falling downstairs, falling upstairs. It's the same character. So it makes it more believable, again, that these things are happening because they're incompetent, because if you realize it was sabotage, you go after them. So when you see that news clip, people out there are going to fight you, like I said earlier, because they're getting programmed into new science every single day. All they have to do is attach science to it, and these people defend it. Just like they did when they told people they had to go and get something put in their body that wouldn't make them better nor immune from a disease, but they should go and get it. And then they explained to you with make-believe science why it was good. Then a lot of those people went and got it. And suddenly a lot of those people got very sick or got a lot of weird ailments. And a lot of them aren't even here anymore to talk about it. But that's because they control the science. They own the science. I mean, they've told us out of their own mouths, remember?
We partnered with Google, for example. If you Google climate change, you will, at the top of your search, you will get all kinds of UN resources. We started this partnership when we were shocked to see that when we Googled climate change, we were getting incredibly distorted information right at the top. So we're becoming much more proactive. We own the science, and we think that the world, should know it. And we own the science, and we think that the world should know it, and we own the science.
So I'll spare you the predictive programming from all of these movies. You can look for yourself with fire tornadoes. What we're seeing cause these fire tornadoes is not the Santa Ana winds. They continually are blaming the Santa Ana winds for the reason that now we're seeing fire tornadoes, for the reason that we're seeing hurricane-like gusts. Everybody out there who has lived in California knows that this is not the Santa Ana winds. Not only that, the Santa Ana winds normally are not active in the month of January. But of course, remember, when you build in a make-believe boogeyman like climate change, which they've done for a decade now because they knew they were going to start using weather modification and weather warfare against civilians, they've trained you to dismiss what's normal and what used to be normal science, kind of like they train people into thinking suddenly men can have babies, right? It's as easy as that. They're using HAARP, they are using NORAD, they are using DARPA, they are using NOAA, they are using all different things to stir up these winds, including 5G towers. And if you didn't see some of the other stories that are out there, it's worth noting if you actually want to wake up and you want to share this with people and wake them up. Look at how blatant this is. ABC News. Homes are bursting into flames in LA days after the initial fire passed. Now, why are homes bursting into flames? If there's a fire out in the distance, does your home burst into flames? Well, of course, they could say whatever they want because they expect you to think, because they've trained you to be stuck in the left-right, to think that if you're a Democrat, anything that goes against what the mainstream media says is a conspiracy. And of course, the conspiracy theorists out there are actually blaming this on an act of God because they don't want to think that Donald Trump or any of these Democrats are working together to do this, right? And I'm sure in the coming days, we'll hear stories of arson because they're already whispering. They're whispering about arson. I've covered this in the past in other countries. They've tried to blame these massive fires on arson, and then they have a fall guy, just like they do with their false flag shootings. There will be somebody who likely takes the blame based on the feedback people are getting, because they're not going to be able to blame climate change for this because they know that people aren't going to believe it because too many people are out there are already using the arson narrative. But here's the real truth. They've been slapping smart meters on your home. And they want you to think that people like me and you are the conspiracy theorists, that we all make this stuff up, right? Let me make this clear. Are lithium batteries flammable? Yes, they are. Are smart meters made of lithium batteries? Yes, they are. You know, there's a reason that when you get something in the mail, they put this sticker on there to tell you that it's flammable, right? Legally, they have to tell you because this thing could potentially catch fire on your front porch or in your living room before you even open it because it has a lithium battery in it. Keep in mind, they're slapping these on your home and telling you that you're getting forced into an electric vehicle, which can very easily catch fire. I've shown all of the video clips over the years of these electric vehicles bursting into flames. They never tell you about that in the mainstream, do they? Of course not. Because it's part of the green energy plan, which is really the enslavement plan to be able to track and monitor your movement. So lithium batteries can catch fire. They're dangerous, right? So why in the world would anybody, no matter what their beliefs are, no matter what their gender is, why would you want one of these on your home? Does it benefit you in any way? No, it doesn't. But you don't want to be difficult, right? You don't want to give the electric company problems. You don't want to research what happened in Paradise, California, where all these people realized it was smart meters and sued PG&E and were actually rewarded lots of money because PG&E was responsible. And who owns PG&E? Well, of course, BlackRock does. Who has the most stake in it? BlackRock and Vanguard have the most stake in all of it, right? Nobody's looking around for where in the world Larry Fink is because he's probably hanging out somewhere with Donald Trump. Thus, the MAGA crowd won't blame Larry Fink for it. They'll just say that this is an act of God, right? Because their God has turned into Donald Trump. And you might remember the stories from Lebanon. Remember the stories of the phone bombs? People out there are talking, are phone bombs real? Wait, they blew up all these people's phones in Lebanon? They exploded in their pockets? And people out there went, wait, can my phone blow up in my pocket? And the media, of course, came out and told you, no, it can't. Remember you used to be able to take your battery out of your phone? Yeah, there's a reason you can't do that anymore. There's a reason that lithium batteries are in your phone, just like lithium batteries are in the smart meter. And do you know that if you expose a lithium battery to an electromagnetic pulse, which is called an EMP, it could potentially cause damage. It could potentially cause a spike in voltage, overheating, or, a fire or explosion. So if everybody in California has a smart meter slapped in their home because they're all libs, they're all on board, they don't want to question a smart meter on their home because they want to fit in with everybody and think it's a crazy conspiracy, right? If the news told them it was dangerous, of course they wouldn't have one on their home in the first place. So for those of you that don't know what an electromagnetic pulse is, these are silent weapons for quiet wars. These are directed energy weapons that they can send these pulses to those smart meters and heat up that smart meter or heat up that cell phone. And it looks a lot like this. So what you're seeing happening around you is this is continuing. They're not taking their foot off the pedal. They're obviously analyzing all the stuff that's getting spread clearly on Rumble, where they know that the conservatives are, who we're talking about, they're monitoring them over there. Obviously here I'm infiltrating the hive mind, trying to wake people up. And they know that people out there are going to believe whatever narrative they feed them. They're feeding the conservatives that this is Sodom and Gomorrah. They're making that trend. They're feeding Democrats climate change, but potentially arson. The truth of the matter is these smart meters. The truth of the matter is that there's a reason they've gone out of their way to slap it on your home, not to make life easier for you or easier for them, right? For this, to have the ability to control inside your home. And don't forget that those things are like literally infrared. They could track everything going on in your home. They could see through your walls with these things slapped on the side of your home. They could see what you're doing, what room you're in. We are under total surveillance. They're doing it with the Wi-Fi routers too. They've been doing it for years. So we now have a Fire NATO, ladies and gentlemen. Fire NATO, excuse me. A Fire NATO. And people out there aren't even blinking. They're like, well, I guess if a tornado goes through the middle of a fire, I guess it might catch on fire. Then, of course, they come out of their way to explain to you, kind of like they're explaining the Santa Ana winds, because it doesn't make sense, because the science has changed. So all the locals there, they want to make sure that they believe it's the Santa Ana winds. The reality of the matter is, this right here is directed energy weapons. This is your smart meter exploding. And this is a combination of things like NORAD and HAARP creating hurricane-like winds to spread this thing. And it's continuing to spread. because their plan is moving forward while everybody remains divided. That's how divide and conquer works. Order out of chaos. My prayers are with everybody affected by this, everybody whose family's affected by it. I think it's disgusting. Some of the stuff I'm seeing where people are celebrating, people are celebrating the celebrities. Like, yeah, I'm so glad the celebrities are not affected whatsoever. The celebrities were paid off. I've covered this in previous videos. There is zero doubt. They're government agents. That's what a celebrity is. I've been exposing this for 10 years. They are CIA operatives trained in mind control. That's what movies are. That's what the news is. They weren't in the dark. They didn't just set their homes on fire. They're playing a role, and they're making sure they look like victims so that you don't uprise, no pun intended, against them. This is a deliberate act of sabotage that you're seeing. And if you're listening to anybody out there that's pushing the narrative of the dumb Democrats, the idiotic Democrats, they're the ones responsible. You need to snap out of it. You need to, I'm not going to tell you should and shouldn't listen to it, never have, never will. But if you're wasting your time with content like that, stop wasting your time. Actually get informed. They're playing you. They are playing the world to death, and everybody's falling for it, hook, line, and sinker. I thank everybody for being here. Hope you're all well. My apologies about my voice. God bless all of you and your families as always.